we've heard about the technology. My task today is to sell it to you and how you can sell it onwards, okay? So I'm going to talk about the reseller opportunity, why you should sell it, where the market's going, and hopefully I'll try and bring what we've heard from IDC, from Red Hat, some of the technology features that we heard from Peter. So we've seen this graph before. Why are people virtualizing? The biggest one is cost reduction, right? Secondly, you have disaster recovery and business continuity, server storage consolidation. But if you look at it, the top driver is cost reduction. Now, so fact one, customers want to virtualize. We heard that today, right? So there's no question about it. People will virtualize. Fact two, customers don't consider the full cost of virtualization, right? So the way the VMware looks at this is they give you a platform, right, that allows you to use less hardware to virtualize, right? So the way they cost it out is they do it 1.5x rather than 2x, right? Because they've saved you 0.5, which is great. But now, you're wanting more from less, right? So this is where open source comes in. I'll talk about it. But, the fact remains people still don't consider the full cost of virtualization in the marketplace today. Because proprietary virtualization software is expensive. So there's two things a customer can do when they come to you and say, hey, can you help me virtualize? And then you tell them you need to buy VMware and remortgage your house to pay for it. One, walk away to virtualize another day, right? What does that mean to you and I? We're not going to have money to pay for our mortgage next month. But at the end of the day, customers come to you as trusted advisors to help them virtualize and move to the cloud, right? So what you want to do is present them a solution, but present them an alternative solution. And that's what we're talking about today, right? The other thing that will happen is, okay, they'll say, all right, well, it's going to cost me X amount, so I'm going to have to go look for more budget. And then all of a sudden, the customer becomes price sensitive, right? So where's the value in that? You're not adding any value because then it goes to open market, customer becomes less loyal to you, and then it becomes a margin war, which is what none of us want, right? So here's the partner value prop, okay? You've got your proprietary software vendor, and normally in a budget to virtualize or any new project you have, 80% of that is the license fee, right? To buy the piece of software to help you run whatever it is you're running, in this case, virtualization. That leaves about 20% for the customer to spend on consultancy, advisory services, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's where the real money is, right? Because anybody can sell software, but it's where you provide the value that proves your worth to your customer, right? So that's on the proprietary software vendor. What's happening is because of market saturation, everybody's selling that piece of software. How can you add value? Once again, that's the question we're answering right now. Selling open source technology, right? So budgets are decreasing. Red Hat subscriptions are almost 25% of what a proprietary solution would cost you, right? And what you're trying to do is actually get more from your customer to pay for those services and consulting and advisory services that you provide in a very, very effective way, right? So there's more money on the table for those kind of services, and you're giving a cheaper alternative to your customer to do essentially the same thing. So there's kind of four ways you can add value, right? Providing low-cost alternative to proprietary virtualization. More budget for services means more value that you can provide, right? You're providing a safe, low-cost VMware alternative, okay? The best part, this is my favorite, is a subscription model, right? So every year, customer has to renew to use the software, okay? It's 100% of the original value, 100% of the original margin, right? So you're constantly building a business that sustains itself and constantly adding that value. And that's the beauty of that open source model. We saw this graph on Hitesh's slide. What about customers already virtualizing? right? So they've got a VMware or Citrix through and through. But, I mean, only 24% of all customers virtualizing are planning to stay sole sourced. So go with one vendor. That leaves 76%. That took me too long to do. Sorry. Yeah, 76% of the market that's still up for grabs, right? Now, a lot of people, because VMware is a market leader, they're kind of pioneers in the technology. People automatically think, VMware, right? Naturally, that's what you do. But, it's about asking them and probing them and saying, would you consider an alternative? And that's what we're, showing you today. Somebody had a question earlier about how Rev compares to VMware, and Peter covered it on that. But this kind of gives you a high-level overview of what Rev has, what Rev doesn't have, and what VMware has and what VMware doesn't have. If you can see, most of it is green, right? So there's a couple of things that's on the roadmap. So storage live migration and live snapshotting. We don't have that just yet. It's in the roadmap, okay? But if you consider that, the baseline VMware software doesn't include that out of the box, but our product does. Okay, so you might need to go for like a VMware Enterprise subscription to get storage live migration, and then storage load balancing. You need an Enterprise Plus, right? So the baseline, stock software, we've actually got more features than VMware. And then Peter lastly spoke about the SVOD project. So the security aspect is exclusive from the inherent SE Linux project that comes in to Rev 3. So, like for like, it's there. It's ready to use. People are using it, right? So from a technology perspective. What about cost perspective, right? So you look at 10 physical hosts, 2 times 8 cores, 256 GB, same density across both, right? Rev comes in first year at 1/7 of the cost. Over 3 years, about 1/3 of the cost of VMware, okay? And that, the graph on the left, is for smaller VMs that have a lot less RAM, okay? When you start scaling your VMs, right, so when you start putting more compute power to them, more RAM to it, it comes out at about 1/5 of the cost over 3 years, because we don't charge the RAM tax, as we like to call it. So at that moment, you want to leverage the subscription model, right? So you got IT demand, it's always increasing. That's why we're in business. That's why we're here. Then you got something called Moore's Law. So you familiar with Moore's Law? Yeah. Every 3 years. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So hardware compute power doubles every 3 years, right? That bridges that gap between demand and budget, right? Budgets are decreasing. Yeah. So how do you bridge that gap? The answer is the subscription model, right? So the traditional proprietary model, the customer pays for a license and supports subscription first year, right? So there's a massive capital expenditure in the first year, and then they consistently pay second and third year for support. Open source, the license is free. It's a general public license. So essentially, you're converting all of IT spend from a CapEx to an OpEx model, right? Which is what customers are slowly getting used to as they move to cloud-based infrastructure, right? And on-demand computing, because they want to only pay for what they want. So what do you get out of the subscription model? CapEx versus OpEx. OpEx is better for business. Anybody will tell you that, right? That goes back to that whole annuity model. It's also good for the reseller, right? Because you're consistently selling it to them. The second part is agility. So you scale up and scale down, right? Today you have 100 servers. Moore's Law, you're in the second year of Moore's Law. The third year goes, you pass a year, you want to upgrade your hardware. So you buy better hardware. Now you have 50 servers. In a license model, you've just wasted 50 licenses. In a subscription model, you don't renew the 50 subscriptions because you're only using 50. It's a more cost-effective method, right? Importantly, there's no vendor lock-in. If you don't get the value out of the subscription, you walk away, right? Because we haven't proved, as Red Hat, the value, and we haven't delivered the value, and you're free to walk away. Which leads me to ask, how many of you ask your customers, what is your cost of exit? Yeah. By that, I mean new customers wanting to virtualize or try a new technology, right? If they say, all right, I'm going to try this on 10 servers. They haven't tried any benchmarking, they haven't tried what the workload is going to look like in a virtualized environment. 3 months down the line, their POC says, this is not going to work. What do you do with those licenses? It's gone, right? Wasted money, right? Or a year down the line, they say, we don't want to do this anymore. The subscription, what's your cost of exit? Nothing, really, because you walk away, you don't renew. Finished, end of story. You're not tied in, right? So you have to think about things like that. Lastly, there's no version upgrade costs. The way the subscription model works, as long as you have a subscription, you can use any supported version of the software, right? So if you're stuck on version 4 and you liked version 4, for example, on a Red Hat basis, on an operating system basis, you can still use that as long as it's supported. Red Hat has a 10-year support life cycle for this. So really leveraging that subscription model will help your customer, Things to take away, yeah? I kind of breezed through that, but, I want to keep it content light just to give you a little bit of, high-level overview of certain things that one, cost reduction. Everybody's looking for saving some money. Even George Osborne, apparently, as he was told by IMF yesterday. There's a picture in the newspaper when I was in the tube, and he was looking on at the IMF woman telling him what to do. So we'll see what happens. Sorry, I'm getting a bit political, but yeah. The key to selling this solution is adding value. Yeah. At this moment in time, anybody can sell at low margins, right? The key to it all is adding value. That's what we do as a distributor. We add value. Yeah, that's why we don't sell Microsoft or Oracle or Symantec or things like that. We sell niche products that require that value add. We have to earn our money on a daily basis, right? Because if we don't provide you that value, then you're not going to be able to sell the solutions. So that's what we're here for, right? And that's what I'm trying to say, that these products can help you add value to your customers. Play in a niche market and you'll win very, very easily as long as you know what you're doing, right? Thirdly, the subscription model. So we went through that, how it is agile. It converts your IT spend from CapEx to OpEx, right? Open source, everybody's talking open source, right? Moving to the cloud, pretty much I think 85% of the cloud infrastructures in the world are built on open source, right? You wouldn't have a Facebook, you wouldn't have a Google, you wouldn't have EC2 without open source, right? So that's where the market's heading, right? Nobody wants to pay these kind of archaic development models anymore. I liken that to when they migrated stuff. When you used to use Office 2003 and then they changed it to 2007, you had that awful ribbon up there. And you were just like, well, why did you change it? Everything was working fine. Because some project manager somewhere in Microsoft Office decided, I'm going to make a ribbon on top so it looks good, right? I didn't want it. Nobody else wanted it. We were forced to use it. Would that happen in an open source environment? No. That's happened right now in Fedora, if you look at it, right? They've put a new kind of user interface together. People said, we don't like it. Guess what? Next version that comes out, it's not going to be there, right? So it's all about adhocracy, right? It's about people making their own decisions and wanting and using the features they want to use rather than being force-fed that. And that's the open source. Dual source, we spoke about how a lot of the Rev customers are actually VMware customers. The key question to ask them is, what is your workload, right? Linux workloads work better on Rev or work cheaper on Rev, right? And you want to replicate that subscription model all the way down to the hypervisor, okay? We spoke about scalability, performance, and more importantly, security. Red Hat has already addressed security. A lot of the other hypervisor, virtualization providers haven't yet. So a little about this is me tooting my own horn. I'm product management at Interactive, so we're here to help, right? I used to be about 4 years ago, used to be a techie at heart. I still have a little bit of geek cred now, I think. I'm losing it as the days go by, because I start talking about how the IMF lady was telling George Osborne something or the other, rather than what sort of kernel versions we should use on a daily basis. But hey, you know, that's why I wear a suit to work now. But you know, we're here to help, okay? And part of that help is jumping on calls with customers, coming to you with your to meet your customers, providing that technical expertise too. You know, we've got deep technical skills, and really pushing the product out to your customer, right? And that's the value we promise that we're going to give to you, so that you can, you know, provide that value to your customer.